Welcome to another edition of the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, episode number 98, Up the Drew Bridge. My name's Matthew Turner. I'm going to be joined in a moment by my co-host Anthony Fitzpatrick, who's just running a few moments late, so I thought I'd get off with a bit of housekeeping. If you are joining us, thank you so much for tuning in. And over the last couple of weeks, just want to say, the Lions have obviously kind of gone through a bit of a lull this season. 11 games, no wins, and then obviously the great win last week. But what we've seen even before the win last week is, I think like everyone, there was some apathy going on with the Lions. Our viewership started to kind of dwindle from a peak that we actually hit during the draft and kind of start of this season. I think there was a lot of belief in Dan Campbell, and that kind of wilted a little bit as the losses mounted up. But before the Vikings game, we started to see a swell again of guys starting to tune back in, and with the win, we've had some of our best weeks in terms of viewership, in terms of listenership, and I just want to take a moment at the top of the show to say thank you to everyone for being a part of this, because having gone out to the D recently and chatted with all of you guys in person, if I have, or chatted with you on the videos through YouTube or what have you, and emails are open as well. If you want to go onto the YouTube to find our email, you can always converse with us there if you haven't done so before. It's been great. And we absolutely love doing what we're doing, so thank you very much. Hey, Dat Fan Man on YouTube, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget our Discord channel is open for everyone. We had a really great time last week, actually, with a Vikings fan, CJ, who was on last week previewing the Vikings game, and he made it actually a really, really fun experience. If you want to be part of our Discord channel, give us a DM on Twitter. We are more than happy to give you that link. College Football Podcast was on yesterday, and Ryan went through the championship games. So obviously the big news in that one was that Alabama overturned Georgia to make sure that they were not only in the playoffs, because I think they were, that it was on the line for them, but they beat Georgia with a historic defense. They were conceding less than 7 points per game on average. That defense is incredible. And Bama are now the top seed for the college football playoffs. That's absolutely massive. Michigan won the Big Ten for the first time they've won a conference since 2004, and then you've got Cincinnati sneaking in. They're the first ever group of 5 team to ever make the college football playoffs. So that's well worth a listen. They also went in to do their end of regular season mock drafts, so they went through that. If you are interested in that sort of thing, please go and have a listen. If you like mock drafting, they sent out an open invite to everyone. If you wanted to do a mock draft and send it in to them, that they would critique your draft. So maybe much like the sort of grading system that you have on PFF, how good was my draft sort of thing, that maybe you don't get from some of the other providers, they were going to provide that sort of service. So like I said at the top of the show, email, Twitter, DMs, Discord, whatever, all available. You can post your mock drafts there, and we'll go through it with a fine-tooth comb and see what you think. Hey, Dan. It was tough there for a few weeks, but so glad you guys are out there. Thank you, Dan. Really, really appreciate you. One of our strongest supporters. It's great. And one of the things, actually, I know I've said that I'm going to do it, but I do mean that we're going to do it. It's going to be a long off season. We're going to have a lot of stuff to do with college tape. We're going to have some gaps to fill before the draft. We are absolutely going to have some more. We're going to have some listener shows. Might use StreamYard for that. We use Zoom for what we're doing at the moment, but get some more fans involved and talk to them what they think, a bit more like a kind of round table open style thing. I think that's going to be a positive move for us, so that'll be really cool. Don't forget to like the videos, subscribe, do what you can, that would be great. Really helps us as we go on through. And Lions Nation Unite, obviously, terrific resource. Herman Moore is a fantastic guy. Can't say enough about that and the project that they've got going there. It may not be the finished article yet, but they're going to get there, and you want to be a part of it when they do, because it's going to be terrific. Right, let's move on to some news, and start with perhaps one of the more benign topics this week. Tackle Darren Paolo has been re-signed to the practice squad, and I have to say I cannot be more bored with this. I mean, how many times does one guy have to be cut and re-signed? I think, has been on the active roster or elevated a couple of times, but he's not my guy. He's not my guy. I'm not a massive Paolo fan, and I really feel like at this point he kind of needs to find his own way a little bit. But maybe there's something to him if he keeps coming back. If any of you are available to play in Denver this week, please meet the team at Allen Park today. 2/3 of the team are due out to illness. Yes, I will come on to that in a moment, but it is pretty horrific. Hello to Derek Boberick and One Pride 40. Well, Carl Hamilton's season is in full effect. One Pride 40. I know that Ant is fully aboard that train. He falls in love with safeties far too easily. And, you know, I love the guy. I think he's probably the best player in the draft. I do worry about positional value. I don't know where the top pick you should take a safety is, but Hamilton's going to test that theory to its max. You know, wherever Hamilton goes is potentially the highest a safety will ever go in the history of the league. So it's going to be interesting to see. Defensive lineman Jashawn Cornell has returned to practice from the non-football injury reserve. So he's been out dealing with personal issues. The NFI reserve works in the same way as the injury reserve. So he now gets to practice for 21 days without taking an active roster spot. And then they have to either activate him or he's shut down for the year. Now, given that he was away from the team for non-footballing reasons, you would hope that he could actually come up to speed pretty quickly, but it depends how long he's been away and whether he's been keeping himself fit or not. So, you know, there's no guarantees there. And given, you know, Bruce Hector saw meaningful snaps in the most recent game, given the number of injuries that we have this weekend, it wouldn't be a surprise, actually, if he can prove his fitness, to see him suit up this weekend, especially given everything. And let's move on to the injuries and the flu now. So Evan Brown, the centre, and Bobby Price are on COVID reserve. Those two are on COVID reserve, which is a real shame. Excuse me. In the part of Evan Brown, if you listen to the Detroit Lions podcast yesterday, it was revealed by Jeff Risden that Evan Brown is not expected to play on Sunday, and he didn't want to say any more about that. I would speculate that he was saying that he means that Evan Brown is unvaccinated. Now, I have no idea at all, but the only reason that you wouldn't be able to prove, get off COVID reserve in that time is if you were unvaccinated. If you're vaccinated, you have two negative tests, and then you go back. The fact that he can't do that means that he's probably going to be out of this game, which means that Ryan McCollum is going to be starting at centre. So third choice centre. McCollum has come in before. He's done okay on very limited snaps. So a bit of a hole in the centre of that offense. If anyone can fix it, Hank Fraley, the best O-line coach in the league, can do it. So I still have belief. Bobby Price is a bit of a blow. You know, he didn't do so well as a starter at cornerback once Okudah went down, but he's still an absolute star on special teams as the starting gunner, so it's a real shame that he's gone on the COVID reserve. Just to address some of the comments, do we have a chance against a tough defense in Denver? We will get on to that, but it is a very good defense. How many points do you have to score to beat that offense right now, though, is maybe a bigger question. We'll get onto that in just a little bit. And One Pride 40, I was meaning that Anthony Fitzpatrick falls in love with safeties. Brad Holmes falls in love with safeties on day 3. He's shown a big history with the Rams of not taking safeties in the first 2 days. So, my theory is that Hamilton potentially is someone that they'll look at with interest, but they'll want to take him in a place of value at the position. So I do not think that there's many ways that Hamilton falls into our lap, because I think that someone else will fall in love with him, especially in the top 10. I've seen lots of people kind of taking a trade back to 8 from 1 and then picking him up there. I'd be surprised if he survives that long. But we'll see. We've seen other safeties in the past. Trevor Morig, in the most recent draft, was mocked mid-first round by a lot of people and ended up falling, I think, to the top of the second or maybe even mid-second, because GMs do not think like the general public. You know, they are people who hone their craft, have game theory people whispering in their ear about the best things to do with these sorts of things, and they have always drafted safeties lower than the general public. So it remains to be seen with Kyle Hamilton what happens there. Let's move on to the really big news of the last few days, which is that the flu is wrecking preparations for this game. So let's have a look at the injury reports. And for Denver, it's not too bad. It's a fairly long list. 3 limited, Bradley Chubb, the outside linebacker, Shelby Harris, the defensive end, Melvin Gordon, the running back. Bobby Massey, the tackle, was limited on Wednesday, but back to full practice today. And then full practice, but just listed with slight ailments, Mike Purcell, the defensive lineman, Mike Ford, the cornerback, we know him well, Malik Reed, the outside linebacker, Caden Stearns, the safety, Teddy Bridgwater, the quarterback, and Andrew Beck, the fullback tight end with an elbow. But for the Lions, I don't know if I can even count the number of people quickly that there are on this list. Let's have a look. 5, 10, 15, 20, 22 people listed on the injury report, which is difficult. So, the only person who's actually gotten better is Jared Goff. So he did not feature him in the walkthrough yesterday with an illness. He is now full practice today, but everyone else did not practice who is on this list. And partially, I think, with the non-injury related designations, they are because they are being protected from getting ill. I think that effectively practice was cancelled to some extent. So non-injury related holdouts are Rashad Barry, Michael Brockers with knee illness and non-injury related, so I'm not really sure what was up with him. Non-injury related for Taylor Decker, Charles Harris, Will Holden, Jonah Jackson has illness and NIR as well. Tommy Kramer, Justin Lemonnier, Matt Nelson, John Penasini both have illness, NIR, and Penei Sewell has shoulder illness and NIR. And Nick Williams has illness and NIR. The other guys either all have legitimate injuries or they are sick. So those people are Austin Bryant with a shoulder, TJ Hawkinson with a hand, Jamar Jefferson was ill, Ali McNeil was ill, Matt Nelson had an ankle, Julian Aquara had an ankle, Onzuike had an illness, Jalen Reese-Maven has his shoulder, DeAndre Swift has his shoulder, and Halapoulivaati Vaitai has his illness as well. So absolutely shockingly long list. We run with a game day roster of 53. There tends to be 6 or 7 guys that get held out. Oh, there he is in the car.
Yeah, you all right? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. What about you?
Yeah, fine. Sorry, I'm running late. I was expecting to get away from work a lot quicker than I did, but I didn't. So I thought I'd join you earlier rather than do the drive home. So
that's cool. I mean, how far away do you live, man? I don't even know from work.
About 20 minutes from where I am. So I thought, well, I'll drop in now because I've still got a few bits. So I'll be here though. I really wanted to get back on for because I didn't realise how long I'd not been on a pod for. It's mad.
It is mad. It's very mad. Dan says, hi, Ant.
Hey, all right, Dan, how you doing?
It's been, 3-4 weeks since you've been on the main pod, so it's absolutely
It's weird
crazy.
it's weird because with doing the college podcast, it feels like I'm doing the pod, but then I was like, I've just suffered a horrible lot of rotas, which have put me on Mondays and Thursdays. So, but now I thought I want to get in for this one. I want to get in some regular Roar of the Lions action. So, yeah, hello to everyone who's joining.
Regular people. Okay, Dan just said he thinks that it's definitely defensive end going at 1 and 2. If we were at 3, he'd say Hamilton as he's called generational, but who would bigger as 70 take 3? Interesting. He says he thinks it's going to be Hamilton. What do you think on this theory, Ant? So I know that you want Hamilton, but our general manager, the Rams, the way that they've drafted through historically, they like to take their safeties on day 3. The John Johnson, I'm pretty sure, was a 5th rounder, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe a 4th, but that sort of late day 2, early day 3 sort of region. Do you think that he's someone who is wedded to that formula, or do you expect him to be able to break it with someone this good?
I don't know what his formula is going to be. Obviously, I think, every team has a different way of drafting and, it might not be his own personal philosophy he brings along with him. But I think sometimes a certain player comes along at a certain position and, they transcend that position. I think that is what Kyle Hamilton is. He really is a guy who transcends his position. He's not just a safety. He's a game changer. in that backfield. And if you're going, because I know Holmes likes to work best player available sometimes as well. And I truly believe that at 3, the best player available in this draft, after the 2 safeties, after the 2 edges, and to be honest, I might put them above 1 of 2 of them as well. He's there and you've got to take him. And I know people go safety at 3, it'd be the highest drafted safety of all time, which would be one thing. And I know people go on about positional value and that, but as far as the Lions go, and I've made this argument on the college pod as well, the reason why our defense has been the way it has this year, I know a lot of people criticize the D-line. We've not had the sacks there. That's because we've been protecting a very young secondary with a lot of rookies in there, a lot of undrafted free agents, not a lot of, elite guys, properly elite or veteran guys in there. If you bring Kyle Hamilton in, it does one of several things. One, your safety group is absolutely better straight away. You've got a guy there who's going to make a difference in that backfield. But not only that, you're going to relieve the pressure on the secondary, so you can bring your linebackers up more, you can blitz a bit more, you can help that D-line, which is talented, but it just needs a little bit of help. So you can bring more guys towards the quarterback, go after him, and you can have more faith in your secondary to look after themselves. But not only that, if you re-sign Tracy Walker, with Kyle Hamilton and Tracy Walker, you've got 2 genuine blitz threats at safety as well. We know Tracy Walker can get after quarterbacks. We know Kyle Hamilton can get after quarterbacks. A guy like Aaron Glenn, the schemes he's going to be able to put out there, the plays, the looks, he just gives you so much on this defense that you don't have before. And I don't care about the position. I don't care whether we're going to be paying him a much on his rookie contract compared to other safeties. He is absolutely worth it. He is the 3rd, maybe better than that in this draft.
Yeah, so Jeff Risdon said yesterday that he's going to be number 1 on his board in terms of quality, regardless of position. So he qualified that by saying he wouldn't take him 1 overall, but that he's the best player in the draft in his opinion. And I thought that was really interesting. Det Fan Man qualified what I was saying about John Johnston. Apparently he was picked 91st overall, so bottom of the 3rd. So that's higher than I thought from Brad Holmes.
It is,
we'll see what happens with that.
And the thing is, with safety, it's such a specialised position. I know you can get them later on. I know we got Quandre Diggs in the 5th, but, the talent's there. There was a great safety class last year. There's a really good safety class this time. But really, going down the list, I think there's a bigger drop-off this year. I don't think there's as many gems waiting to be found. So we've done safety lists for the college pod, etc. And, there are a few guys who could pop out, but I think you've got to look at the value at the top. There are some middle round guys you can go after as well, but I think we need to double dip. I genuinely think we need to double dip and keep Tracy Walker. So I'd take 1 high and 1 middle for me if I was doing it, but draft's a long way away, so that opinion could change very quickly.
Yeah, and One Pride 40 has also made the very good point that Taylor Rapp was taken in the bottom of the 2nd as well by the Rams. So it's another good point. I maybe botched that. That was from reputation rather than actual research. So beg your pardon on that one. I've just gone through all of the news. So Darren Paolo back, Deshaun Cornell back, Evan Brown, Bobby Price on COVID reserve, and then all of the flu injury. So 22 players on the injury report, about 9 of which are non-injury related. So my theory is that the practice was cancelled to try and hold people back from getting ill. But even if that's true, there's still 13 people who are not feeling well out there. I mean, it's going to be hard for us to field a team. Never mind a competent team, just any team, if this perseveres through the weekend.
And the big problem you've got is we're playing at Mile High this week as well. So if it is something like flu, if it's something that's messing around with the respiratory system, then, playing at Denver's the worst place to go because it's a high altitude. There's less air up there. It could affect them even more. So it's just, we didn't need this. We don't deserve this sort of look. If anyone comes down with a flu bug this week, we're just on the back of our first win. We've got the momentum. Denver are rubbish, with all due respect. This was a good opportunity for us. And this, hopefully it clears up. Hopefully, like you say, it's just very, very sort of, cautionary about this. Obviously, Goff had it as far back as Monday. So hopefully they'll all be able to check it off. But there's a lot of fight and determination in this team. If they take the field, I still expect them to put up a hell of a fight regardless.
Yeah, I do too, and I think they'll be able to put out a team. I mean, so Goff has had it since Monday. It's Thursday now. He's at full practice today. That's 3 days. You go 3 days from today, it's Sunday. That's not perfect, but that timeline allows us to have most of our players back at the very least. So fingers crossed for that. Let's dive right into the game. Betfair has the odds at 3-1 for the Lions. Broncos are 4-1 on. Spread when I saw it yesterday was 8, although I know most outfits have it at 7.5 points. Over under at 42. Looking at the injury report, I've done that actually for the Broncos, beg your pardon. But looking at IR specifically for the Broncos, they've got a few big pieces out. So Graham Glasgow is off. Obviously, he had that scare earlier on this season, and I think he's out for the entire season. He's worth $12 million against the cap. Bryce Callahan, he's on IR too, $8.5 million against the cap. And then Alexander Johnson. Now, he's a linebacker. He signed a 1-year, $3.4 million deal. He is the top-rated PFF defender for the Broncos, still remaining on the team. So that takes out Von Miller, who was the most highly rated. That's all the people who've played 100 snaps or more. He's the most highly rated player. His run defense and tackling grades were both elite in his 323 snaps. He played 6 games. I think he's done for the year as well, so he's going to be a big loss too. Broncos are 6-6, battling in the AFC West to remain relevant. Pro Football Reference reckon that they should have had 6.6 wins to their 6, so they've been unlucky, but Football Outsiders is 5.9, so they're about on the money. They're third in the division, and in their last 3 games, they lost to the Eagles at home, 30-13. They then beat at home. I didn't actually indicate whether they're at home or away, beg your pardon. Double check that before I say that. Sure, yeah. Lost to the Eagles at home, beat the Chargers at home, 28-13, and then had a really disappointing loss to Kansas City, 22-9 in KC. Overall, their DVOA is -4%. That's 14. Is that really right? No, that's not right. -4% is 80. Beg your pardon. So you're looking at a team about in the middle of the pack. They are 500. Their DVOA says they're about middle of the road. And you have a look at their results. They've beaten the Chargers. That is no mean feat. Herbert is playing out of his mind, and that team blows hot and cold. They've lost to the Eagles, and they look toothless against KC. But that defense has been top 3 in the league for the last 4 or 5 weeks. So I don't know how much you can read into that, because we are not on that level. Any thoughts and on everything that you've heard there from the top?
It's a tough game. You know, we know it's going to be a tough game, regardless of the record. They've lost 6, but, you know, as I've already mentioned, they're going to their ground. The altitude is just a big difference leveler to start with. You know, it's going to be vital that we do adapt there very quickly. So, you know, it is going to be a tough game, but, you know, as always, I like to look for the route to victory in this, and there is, and quite simply, their offense is garbage. Outside of Javonte Williams, you know, he's been producing really well. I loved him coming out of college. He's having a great year there for them, but Teddy Bridgewater is struggling, and they've got good receivers there, but they've been underutilized, and the offensive line is struggling as well. Bridgewater is getting under a lot of pressure, and as we've seen, we have one of the informed edge rushers in the division with Charles Harris. He's having an amazing season, and he's just stepping up every week. You know, we're getting more pressure on there. The defense is playing at a really high level, so I can see us restricting them score-wise. It's just whether our offense can carry on from where it left last week, and especially at the beginning and the end. If we can start strong here, get a good foundation going, then I think we've got every chance in this game. You know, Von Miller is no longer there. He is the elite guy. He is the potential game changer. I know there are still guys there who can, but, you know, I look at this Broncos team and I have no fear. I know what our team is going to give. It's going to give 100%. It's not been bullied by any team whatsoever this season, really. The Bengals was just a matchup nightmare.
Eagles. Gotta say.
Oh yeah, the Eagles. The Eagles was the one bad one, but I mean, everyone has a bad game in a season. You know, most teams will have a nightmare. Look at the Packers' first game of this season. They got completely blown out by the Saints. Was it 37-3? Everybody struggles, but, you know, we have momentum. We have that win now, and I think that was a real big mental hurdle to get out of the way was that win, because we come close so many times and it looked like we might miss out again. I think they're going to play so much more freely now this has happened, especially Goff. Goff looked a lot more relaxed. He looked happier. I was so incredibly happy for Goff the other day. I know he's a multi-millionaire. He's got the girlfriend and everything. Everyone says he's won at life, but he's had a rotten year when you think about it. Just, discharged by the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
And he's come here to Detroit. He's not really been well accepted across the board. Everyone was talking about moving on from him straight away, really. It was a great win for him. And I think that confidence now, we will see some of those passes he made were amazing. They were, if Stafford made them, we'd be going, oh my God, that's just, Matt Stafford at his elite level. And I think we're starting to see the more confident side of him. And while ever the run game keeps going well, the offensive line is playing well. Our offense is starting to find its rhythm. And penalties. We didn't have many penalties last week. Minnesota had more than us. Every week I'm seeing us improve on areas that we need to, and we're getting progressively better. So I hold no fear against this Broncos team. That doesn't mean I don't respect them, but I respect what our team does and what it is capable of.
Yeah, so I look at this Broncos team and I see an offense that is a quarterback away. Now, their offensive line isn't remarkable, but it's not a complete liability. You can win with that offensive line, but the weapons they have are incredible. Let me just run through the stats. So they are 3% in DVOA. That is 15th. They've scored 237 points at 19.8 per game. That's 23rd in the NFL. In passing, 271 of 407 for 2,711 yards, 16 touchdowns. 9 interceptions, 6.2 yards per attempt is very, very low per attempt. So they are a check down Charlie kind of offense. On rushing attempts, 311 attempts, so that's 17th in the NFL. So not as high as you think, given the quality of their running backs. 1,416 yards, however, is 12th, so they're very efficient. 16 yards, 9 touchdowns, 4.6 yards per carry is 7th in the NFL. So an efficient running attack doesn't use it as much as they should. Third down conversions, they're not particularly great. However, 56 of 152, that's 37% and 24 in the NFL. Fourth down, they're one of the better sides when it really comes to the crunch. 13 of 21 for 62% and 6th. However, in the red zone, their problems show up again. 21 of 40 is 52% and 27. So third down and the red zone, they are not the best team out there. And I think it's because they have trouble passing beyond the sticks, hence the low yards per attempt. Quarterback is Teddy Bridgwater starting, although Drew Lock, I think, come in for a little bit of the game last week. His passer rating is 95, quarterback rating 47.4. He has suffered 28 sacks this year. That's 6.9% of his dropbacks, which is insane. He's still one of the higher graded players per PFF on offense, 74.3. Then the two running backs that mentioned, Javonte Williams, one of the best rookie running backs in the league, 140 carries, 670 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 4.8 yards per carry. Also productive in the receiving game, 33 of 42 for 269 and 2 touchdowns, a PFF grade of 72. Melvin Gordon, however, gets the start in every single game. Javonte Williams comes in later. Melvin Gordon, 135 attempts, 605 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 4.5 yards per carry. 22 of 30 in the passing game, 166 yards, and 2 touchdowns, PFF grade of 72. Then, how about this for weapons? Courtland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Noah Fant, and Jerry Jeudy. That is a match for anyone in the league. Tim Patrick and Courtland Sutton, I think, have both been re-signed to big deals in the last couple of weeks. Sutton, 47 of 76, 649 and 2 touchdowns. Patrick, 40 of 61 for 558 and 4 touchdowns. Noah Fant, 49 of 67, 424 and 3 touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy, less productive, I think he's been injured for part of this year, 28 of 37 and 330 yards, but no touchdowns. This is a team that if it could overcome its quarterback and overcome that offensive line, those weapons are insane.
Oh, absolutely, I agree. But as you've said, they're a quarterback away, and that's the same problem our offense has. Our offense, if you look at it, is actually really good. But all you could argue is we're a confident quarterback and a wide receiver one away from being a really, really good offense. We've got a great offensive line. We've got the tight end. we've got the backup receivers now. We've got the fullbacks. We've got everything we need to be successful. And so do they. But unfortunately, like us, they do possess certain weaknesses in that offense which stop it from functioning fully. Now, as you've mentioned there, I think the key's in there. You've got to stop those dual threat running backs. You've got to stop Gordon, then you've got to stop Williams. Because if you do that, then Teddy Bridgewater drops back. What happens when Teddy Bridgewater drops back? You can sack him. You can get after him. You can bring the pressure there. So immediately you've got the key to winning this one as far as getting at their offense goes. Just be nice and sturdy against the run, not giving too much away, and then really sending pressure after Teddy Bridgewater. He ain't the most mobile guy in the world, and that offensive line ain't going to hold you up long. So we've got the weapons to do it. So absolutely, they have the same issue we do. Great players, but just not a full cohesive unit. And again, they've got great weapons who can hurt us, but I know that we can repel them. And we've seen this season that they've not utilized these guys to the fullest of their abilities. And there's no reason to suggest they're just going to do it against us.
No, absolutely. I mean, so their liability is on their line. Their liability is in the interior of their lines. So Quinn Miners, we saw that he absolutely wrecked someone last week, but he's had a slow start to his NFL career. He's been a part-time starter, 350 snaps or so, although he's really picked it up in the last few games. He had a rough start, and he's been much better since. So not as bad as he was. The other guards, Dalton Risner is okay. Glasgow, obviously, is on IR. Natam Muti is okay, but nothing to write home about. These guys can be got at from the inside. Their tackles, on the other hand, have had fairly good years so far. So Bobby Massey, Garrett Bowles, they're fine. They'll do a job. We're really relying on Charles Harris to beat those guys in the tackle position and occupy them so that we can go to work in the middle. And really, we're looking at Levi Onwuzurike, I think, as maybe our biggest weapon from the interior. So I want to see him come in and really, wreak havoc. What we need to do is shut down those running backs and get them into any level of third down, because they're not good at third down, and I don't really think it makes any difference as to what type of third down. If we can get them playing situational football, which I know is also not particularly our strength, I think that we can go to town on this offense. It's a good offense. It's the strength of this team so far, actually, because their defense, whilst being regarded as one of the best, it hasn't played like it. So let me show you why. 2.8% on DVOA is 20th. They've conceded 218 points. That's 18.2 points per game. That's third in the NFL. So it's a stingy defense. And that's shown up in the pure stats. So against the pass, 233 of 401, 2,643 yards, 15 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 6.2 yards per attempt. That's the fourth lowest amount of touchdowns against the pass conceded. And against the run, 290 attempts, 1,262 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 4.4 yards per carry. That's second in touchdowns against. So they don't really concede touchdowns. But how about this? On third down, they are conceding. Let me get that right. Is that Hang on a minute. Can they really be that bad on third down? Can't find my spot. They can. 67 third down conversions of 157. That's 44%. That's 29th in the NFL. So, this team, it might not give up touchdowns, but they let drives continue at a rate of knots. On fourth down, they're much better. 5 of 18 is 27%, and that's first in the NFL. In the red zone, conceding touchdowns on 14 of 26 trips. That's 9th. This is very much a bend, don't break offense. Looking at their statistical leaders, Justin Simmons, the safety, also one of their best players. 4 interceptions on the year, 11 passes defended, 58 tackles, 44 of which solo, PFF grade of 73. And cornerback Patrick Surtain, first-round rookie, he's also got 4 interceptions and even more passes defended with 12, 38 tackles, 31 of which solo, PFF grade of 64. And then outside linebacker Malik Reed. 1 pass defended, 2 forced fumbles, fumble recovery, 5 sacks, 36 tackles, 19 of which solo, 3 tackles for loss, 8 calls back hits, and a PFF grade of 61. Now, what's the Broncos' problem then on defense, I hear you say? None of that sounded particularly bad. Well, the reason they're bad is that they concede a score on 31% of possessions. That's 29th in the NFL. They may not concede a huge amount of touchdowns, but they concede a lot of points per possession. And that's really important. They can't get off the field. Teams consistently score 3 points against them and just enough touchdowns to put them in real problems. And so even though the offense has played good enough to win, their defense doesn't do the job. So we have a real opportunity here, because what's our good strength? Our good strength is the run. If we can actually run on this team, if we can get ourselves into 3rd and shorts, we have a really, really good chance of winning the time of possession here. If we can dominate them in the trenches, this is a big route to victory. And it takes out the idea that all of these illnesses are going to be a problem, because all we need fit is 1 running back and 5 offensive linemen. And we could be good to go in this game. I don't know whether you caught much of that, Ant.
Yeah, no, I was listening. Don't worry, I'm just sort of multitasking a bit. But no, I'd agree there. I think, we need to just focus on our own game more than anything. It's finally what we did last week against the Vikings. It just all seemed to come together as one. But we ran the ball well. Goff was throwing better, but we were putting ourselves in better situations. And the main thing is, last week we started quick. How many times this year have we not scored in the first half and made it difficult on ourselves? I know we didn't score in the first quarter last week. It was 6-0, but we came out very quickly after that, put 2 scores down, and it just makes a world of difference when you're not losing, by double figures at halftime all the time. So it's just very critical, 1, that we stop them scoring early, but 2, we just impose ourselves on this game. And yeah, the run game is the way to do it. Put Goff in manageable situations, get him making some throws, get his confidence going, and as you go along, you'll start slinging it more. But, I just think, if anything, just the confidence boost is going to be a difference maker for us this week, just because that first win is now there. It was hanging on us, and you could see sometimes it was hanging on us. The middle part of that Vikings game, it looked like, our confidence was shot. They were coming back. We thought this was going to happen again. And, we're not going to have that anymore. So run the ball, run it well. We know we can do it. We know we can win in the trenches. And then, as I say, just make the job easier for Goff. It's going to be harder for them to get to him. They're missing the biggest edge rusher. They sold him. So I trust this team to do well. It's just all about, executing right, keeping the penalties out, and just getting points down early again to give us a platform to build on.
Yeah. So my big fear in this game is that we do something that we've done for the last few years against quarterbacks exactly like Teddy Bridgewater, where we don't quite get enough pressure. A quarterback fairly mobile, who doesn't throw it particularly far, who's hyper efficient, just gets time in the pocket to slice and dice all the way down the field. Do you think that's a risk in this game? We have seen in past games, not the most recent one, but points this season, that our defensive line has struggled to get pressure at times. And Bridgewater's the sort of guy where if he does get time in the pocket, he's going to beat us handily.
He is, and that is the concern, like you say. But as we already mentioned, at the start of this, the reason the line is not getting much help is because we're cautiously protecting the secondary. There's only so many places you can allocate your resources in a game like this. And unfortunately, with the wide receiver core they've got and Fant, I do feel like they're going to allocate a lot of people into that backfield to make sure they don't get big plays on us. But, Bridgewater, I don't know. I just feel like he's not at the level, like Cousins. Cousins still got a lot of passes off against us, but we bent and we didn't break. If we do that again, I'm happy, because the amount of stops we got when it mattered, we were able to stay in that game. So if we are going to give up chunk plays, then I don't mind, as long as we're not conceding touchdowns. If it's field goals, if it's no points, then I'm not too fussed. So it is a worry, absolutely, for sure. But I would, and I've said this all season, I would trust the secondary a bit more. I'd trust Jacobs. I'd trust Parker. But just Walker and Marlowe back there. Marlowe's solidly been doing all right for recently. You know, we're not been moaning about him. And like I said, that's the place to go. But we've got to stop the run first. It's very critical you stop the run first and foremost. Don't give them the opportunity to get in these play action pass scenarios where they can get chunks against us. You know, we've really got to go for that. And you notice last week we did a lot better. And why? I believe McNeil played about 45% of snaps last week. The week before, when we struggled, it was about 20. Put your best run defenders in there. I know PFF said he didn't have a good game, but I know damn well from my own eyes he had a great game. Doesn't do all the flashy stuff, etc., but he gets in the trenches and he wins for you. So put him in again, trust him to be in that situation, and just really stop that run. And then we don't need to talk about the play action conversation.
Yeah, completely agree. People really showed up, actually, like Nick Williams. So he made the crucial kind of play on one of the 2-point conversions, kind of sidestepping a blocker, managing to create a hole for Derek Barnes to go through for the stuff. And it's players like that. You know, we've stopped 3 2-point conversions, and that doesn't happen by accident. I know Zimmer had a terrible day as play caller several times over, but it was really impressive. We've actually started to play well in that side. There was a question by Dan a bit earlier, and he said, how much do you think McCollum is going to affect our line, snapping, etc.? So Ryan McCollum is going to be an interesting one. So let me have a look and see what PFF have said about him so far this season.
What was the question again? Sorry.
So Ryan McCollum, how is he going to affect things? He's had 7 snaps so far this year in 2 games with an average grade. He's probably not had enough time to screw up there. I know that McCollum was highly regarded by Jeff Risdon. He was someone that he thought we should have claimed from the Texans practice squad earlier than we did. So, you know, that's something. But I think he was comparing it to a backup line in Detroit at the time in preseason, which was regarded as terrifically bad. We now know that that didn't turn out to be the case. But we do have the issue that I don't think he's the best snapper of the ball. And actually, that's something that Dan highlighted. How is the snapping of the ball going to be in his blocking? I actually think his blocking is okay. But his snapping, for me, is erratic. And we saw Goff actually handle a few fairly high snaps in the game last week quite well. But I do worry that actually that's going to be an inconsistent thing that Goff's going to have to worry about, perhaps distracting from throwing the ball in the first place. It does provide me with a small concern.
I don't know. All I'd say is he's got one of the best coaches in this team training him. I implicitly trust Hank Fraley to do his job here. I mean, look what he's done with Evan Brown. Can you honestly say you've noticed Frank Ragnow miss? Obviously, we know Ragnow's missing, but does it feel like he's been missing? Has our centre been getting mauled every week because the snap's been bad, etc.? No, he hasn't. And Evan's not started a game before this. Sorry, go on.
No, I just wanted to say, do you want... Well, you're going to know the answer as soon as I ask the question. Do you want to guess who has a better pass blocking grade out of Ragnow and Brown?
I think Brown does, I believe.
Yeah,
if I'm right.
4 points difference. Now, obviously, Ragnow is an absolute mauler in the run game. That's hard to compare. But Brown's better at pass blocking.
But you've just got to look. So Brown's is just one example. Kramer has come in at right guard and played really well. We've not noticed that he's been in there. You know, we've not noticed Big V's been missing. Sewell has played at left tackle and then at right tackle and looked like he hasn't missed a beat. Jackson's getting steadily better in there. I mean, we've had depth guys come in and we've not noticed our line get considerably worse. In fact, it's got better. I trust his training. You know, we thought that when Ragnow was down, we were, not use that word, we were screwed, to put it this way lightly. Couldn't have been further. Could not have been further from the truth. And, you know, I trust him to get the guys ready and do what they need to do. He's landed on everything this year. We can't really fault the offensive line play apart from Nelson at times. And he's a backup guy who's been asked to play a lot, which he shouldn't be. You know, he should be a depth guy and he's had to play a bit more than he has. But even in that situation, when Nelson comes in as an extra blocker on the line, he looks really good. You know, our run game a few weeks ago, was it Pittsburgh, when we were playing the extra tackle in there? That was Nelson.
I was
He
just
looked
going to
great.
point that out. Yeah, he looked fantastic as the sixth line.
Exactly. So I trust our coach. So I've not got too much worries about McCullum. I think Hank Fraley's going to have him ready. And, you know, he's got two great tackles in there. He's got two experienced guards next to him now. If he were on a rookie line with not good guard, with not good players in there next to him, I might worry. But he's part of a really good, experienced line, and I trust him to do his job.
Okay, so turning your attention perhaps to their defense, it's one of those defenses which is meant to be really good, a fearsome defense. It's terrifically stingy. I highlighted before that perhaps situationally not the best, and they concede a lot on average on most drives. They're conceding a lot of field goals. Is there anyone that you're worried about in this team? Jonathan Cooper on the edge, Justin Simmons, Draymond Jones, Patrick Surtain. Is there anyone that gives you pause?
I think you always worry about a Broncos defense. I mean, that's traditionally what they're famed for. They always usually put out a good defense across all facets of the game, but obviously Simmons is the worry in safety. If you're trying to bomb it deep, if you're trying to really, have a go at them there, he's the guy who can, pick those passes off, who just marshals that secondary so well. But hopefully he doesn't have to be a factor in this game. He's good at rushing the quarterback as well. The problem we've had with our offense a lot this season is when we can't get the running game going and when we're putting it on Goff, teams are bringing their safeties forward. They're bringing their linebackers forward. They're stacking the box and they're getting after the quarterback. And guys like Simmons, that's where they can really hurt you. So if we can keep him well back, if we can keep them with their safeties lined high, we do aim some shots downfield and keep him out of harm's way, go for those short to intermediate passes as we did in this one. I can see that could be the way we could get round this. So, that's what I'd be liking to see. I just want to see both sides of the ball continuing to work well together, to negate these problems. Because a lot of these problems we bring on ourselves.
Yeah.
When we're not running the ball well, then teams can really punish us with these players who can get into our backfield and cause all sorts of issues. And we didn't allow that to happen last week against the Vikings team, who have some good players who can do that. But they just did not get the opportunity. And last week was a perfect template for most part of our offense and what it can do when it's churning right and it's in good situations. We've just not had enough of that this year.
No. They also have Bradley Chubb, who's returned from injury. He played in week 2 against Jacksonville, did not have a great game, then on injured reserve. He returned against the Chargers and also played against Kansas City. He's total 87 snaps so far this season. But he's played poorly. He's clearly not up to full fitness at this point. The 5th round pick in the 2018 NFL draft. He's someone to worry about by reputation, but actually he really hasn't done the business so far this season. And someone said that they've got a really good cornerback room. Well, Patrick Surtain excluded. We've already talked about him. Their number 2 is Bryce, or their number 1 is Bryce Callahan. Obviously a very good player. He's on IR. He's out too. Next, Ronald Darby. Yeah. Next, Kyle Fuller. Kyle Fuller is not the guy he was in Chicago. He's had a really bad season, in fact.
I thought they cut him.
They probably did.
I thought they'd already cut him, to be fair. I'm pretty sure they've already got rid of Kyle Fuller because it was a lot of money lost for them. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that I remember Fuller already been cut from his new team. Unless they've taken him back on the practice squad. But he was definitely cut, I'm sure.
He is still listed on Wiki as a Bronco, but I was saying it and it felt wrong, so maybe you're right. I don't know. Let's have a look and see what it says. Due to poor play, he did not appear in Week 8's matchup against Washington after losing playing time to Nate Hairston and Patrick Surtain. Leading up to the trade deadline, it was widely speculated that he would be traded away. However, he was not. That's from Wiki, which is not exactly the best resource, but there you go. The backup to all of those guys is former Lion Mike Ford.
Oh, so Mike.
That could be interesting. I'm pretty sure that's Mike Ford. Anyway, it's a cornerback called Mike Ford. Let's have a look. That looks pretty like Mike Ford to me. Yeah. Ooh,
I did love Surtain coming out of the draft. Surtain, I think he's having a decent year for them as well. So
Yeah, he's had a very
They've
good
got
year.
playmakers there. Again, they've got playmakers there. This is just a case of whether our guys can step up like they did last week and, make names themselves. Reynolds has made a difference for one. I think it's a target that Goff trusts, and he's taking attention away from the other guys as well. Amon-Ra's getting a bit more room in there. TJ seems to have a little bit more room at last because they're actually having to guard some of our wide receivers. And I mean that's the big one. TJ, I mean, it's going to be big in this, hitting the middle of that field. If you want to stay away from some of these talented guys in the secondary, got to hit the middle of the field, and that's where Goff was making some of his best passes last week.
Well, one place that they are not strong is at linebacker. So,
and Dan Campbell loves his mismatches. So I expect him to get a lot of use this weekend. I expect Amon-Ra to be cutting those routes just across the middle of the pitch. In fact, I expect a lot of them to be doing that and targeting those linebackers. And, if the run game can get going and you can get into that soft, belly of theirs, you can really knock out some junk plays. It's really a point that, there is a bullseye there and we need to go and target that bullseye.
Absolutely. Right. Let me just finish things out with the special teams and then we'll discuss this a bit more. Kickers, Brandon McManus, 19 of 22 on field goals, 22 of 23 on extra points. Kickoff starts, 79% are touchbacks, so don't expect too much returning on our part. Punter, former Lion, Sam Martin, 47 punts, 45.5 yards per punt on average. Right, let's talk about the ways to win them. We've discussed many of them all the way through, but perhaps more specifically, is there anything you want to see specifically in terms of a way to win? And I might start off by saying that I want to see more Brock Wright. 2 tight end sets are the way to go. Brock Wright has actually shown himself to be a very, very capable blocking and receiving tight end. I dare say that I actually think that he might be doing better in some part than TJ Hawkinson right now. I want to feed that. We want our run game to work well. 2 tight end sets seems like it would be a good matchup against this Broncos team. It would protect Goff if he actually wants to pass a bit. And they both can get out and receive really, really well. So you could have either one go and the defense don't know what's going to come. So I want to see more Brock Wright snaps in this game. How about you?
Quoting our good friend SW Lion, I'd be looking for the 2 running back sets in there. I agree. I do agree with him. I have agreed with him. He's just been very, very persistent on that issue. But we worked well with 2 running back sets last week. And again, because we're so diverse in what we can do there, it keeps defenses guessing. I mean, Godwin had a few good runs. Jamar had some good runs. I mean, we need to use him more. Obviously, use Jamal to start off the game, but utilize your 2 back sets. Get them in there. Work to your strengths. Running back is a strength of ours. And they say, get the tight ends in there blocking. The offensive line are just really good at the job they do. And then just mix it up a bit. If you've got 2 tight ends in there, 2 running backs in there, you can do all sorts. I want to see some of the ingenuity we saw last week. The Vikings at times didn't look like they knew what was going to hit them with us. They couldn't stop the run. They were bad guarding against Goff and his passing. I want to see exactly the same again, and I want to see a fast start. I'd like to see it in the first quarter, preferably this time, but first half will do me if we can put a few scores down. And really, because like you say, they score on what is it? 1 in every 3 drives. Did you say they get points? 31%, was it? It's poor.
Let's have a look.
You said 31% of
drives. They concede points on 31% of drives, and they score. They score on 36% of their drives.
That's still about 1 in 3. It's not great. So, again, if you put a few scores down on them and you leave them chasing this game, if you can take the running backs out the game, that's exactly where we want to be. If we can get a couple of scores up, get the running backs out, make Bridgewater throw and put pressure on him, we could buckle. But, I just want to see a lot more of what I saw last week. The defense has just been amazing. I can't say anything different about those. I do think they should be a little bit more aggressive sometimes, but, they found a formula and it's working. But offensively, I want to see the same things again, just a little quicker. And just cut out maybe a few of the errors. Try and do 4 full quarters of playing because, the third quarter last week wasn't great. We let them back in it. Those little mental errors. But I think that's going to go now they've won their first game. I think that was more down to nerves about blowing it again. I can see a more disciplined 60-minute performance this time out. And I think we've got all the momentum with us. They got blown out by the Chiefs and they looked awful. We've got our first win. Our confidence is high. We have nothing to fear in this one.
No.
We've got to respect them. We've got to respect them, but we've got nothing to fear. We just go out there, play our game, be spoiler, because the pressure's on them, not us.
Yeah, absolutely. They're fighting for relevancy. They still can make the playoffs, but they absolutely need this game. And we don't. We don't need this game, and it gives us the freedom to go and play our own game. Goff
and it's what happened to the Vikings. They panicked. On that last drive especially, they were looking in preserve mode. They didn't want to risk the defeat, so they allowed us to get too close, and we just needed one play where we could beat them outright, and we got it. And that's what that pressure to get in the playoffs does for you, because, I mean, that's kibosh their season, potentially, especially if they lose again tonight. And Denver are in exactly the same boat, 6-6. Vikings were, 5-6 last week. They're in that middle impact. The wild card is there to be had, but you've got to avoid a banana skin. And teams now know that this Lions side will give you a hell of a fight, and you're going to have to really, really dig deep to put it away and beat it. And that just gives us all the advantage we need.
Yes, yeah, it does. I mean, I think it's underrated, actually, just going to that Vikings game, how important the play before the touchdown was. So, if you recall, there was 8 seconds left from the 12-yard line, 3rd and 2. And we try and go to Reynolds for the first play. Looks like it's going to get picked off, but it's a ball over the top of that defense. And, I think that Denver are actually defending not that deep on that play. They saw us trying to go over the top. It pushed that defense back, which allowed Amon-Ra to get in front of them. So they reacted to the first play they saw instead of being proactive in trying to stop the most obvious way of scoring. But we set them up, and it worked really, really well. Another thing that I want to see is Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds being fed the ball as much as possible, because he had a really good second quarter. He was one of the outlets for Goff in his perfect passer racing second quarter, but then he kind of melted away once Goff had kind of melted away. The other thing I need to see, I'm not going to be greedy and ask for a full 60 minutes. Goff played an awful first quarter, an awful third quarter, and then had one good drive in the fourth quarter last week. But he was perfect in the second quarter. I'm not going to ask him to be perfect, but I want him to show two good quarters of play where he has multiple drives with throws like what we saw in that second quarter, because he stacked 3 incredible drives together. Now, if he had one in 3 quarters and 8 clock all the way through the game, and then had kind of bad drives intermixed with that, that'd be far better than what we saw, because we gassed the team into halftime and then let them right back into it. We got 26 offensive yards in that third quarter. Now, that can't happen even in the worst of times, but give me 2 quarters. I can work with 2 quarters of good play. Even if you're stretching out that 1 quarter that you had into 2, that's fine. But just, you need to eat clock through a game. And I think 60 minutes is just too much to ask.
At the risk of sort of quoting the Star Wars meme here, I want more. No, I think confidence is just going to be sky high. He's going to be the most confident he's ever been in a Lions jersey in his life. And I just think when Goff is confident, his game is a lot better. The offensive line is giving him time to throw. The running game is doing its fair share of what it needs to do. You just got to strike that balance, and you got to strike it early. And I just want to see the momentum from last week carried on, because it doesn't mean much if we go out in this one and just get swept away. What we need to do, that would be a Patricia thing. There's so many times we'd win games and then we just wouldn't carry that momentum forward. We'd lose it all the next week, and everything that had, happened before then was just, rendered null and void. I do want to see the team still playing well this week. If anything, just to silence this majority of, well, not this majority, but this growing number of Dan Campbell haters out there. I just want him to stick it to them so bad, but he needs to keep consistency. We need to see the same fight again, even if we don't win. I want to see us be competitive and leave everything on that field, and so we can say that, what he needs to do this year he's doing. The culture is set, the attitude is set, the players are fighting hard, they're looking better. That's all we can ask for this week, regardless of the result. But I just want them to do the team proud, as they always do. That's what I want to see. I just do not want to see regression to any form where we are comfortably beaten. That could be disastrous.
It could be. I mean, so let's speak about Dan Campbell a moment before we sign off. So there are a growing bunch of people who don't think they're it. They've seen him call play calls in situational moments, and they go, oh, well, this guy just isn't the guy. And, I mean, for me, what you're seeing is someone who's inexperienced at calling plays. That doesn't mean, one, he can't get better at it, and two, that isn't his long-term job. Like, no matter what you think of that, what's the head coach's role? It's to be the CEO of that organisation. So, what's the job of a CEO? And I would argue in a football team that the main job of a CEO is to make sure that everyone is on the same page. Now, in Carolina, Matt Rule has just fired his offensive coordinator, mainly because they're not on the same page and he believes that's hurting the team. Now, if the CEO can have everyone pulling together and everyone working to the best of their ability, he's done his job, because Dan Campbell doesn't run the team. He runs the organisation, and it's a completely different animal. And what do you see from this team? Complete buy-in. Now, he may take us in a direction which actually doesn't work. You know, I'm not saying I'm totally sold on him. That would be ridiculous. He may get complete buy-in in a direction that doesn't work. But that will be down to the people underneath him executing. He has got the loyalty and he's got the buy-in from his players, who have kept fighting all the way through a winless season, and that is impressive.
It was the first remit of his job. His first remit was to rebuild the culture here, because the culture was shot. There was a team full of lazy, overpaid veterans who could not be arsed and down tools so many games last year. And, you know, we had a lack of talent in here. We had so many issues, and his job this year, and we all said it at the start of the season, what do we want to see? We want to see this biting kneecaps culture that he wants in, where the players are aggressive, you know, they're determined, they don't let teams roll up on them. We've seen that. We've not been outbeaten or outbullied this year, maybe bar the Eagles game, but like I said, every single team has this issue. But his remit this year was to install that culture, and he's done that. After 13 games, they were still out there fighting their damnedest. They could have given up when that Minnesota touchdown went in. They could have let their heads drop. Did they? No, they kept fighting. And Jared Goff, against all expectations, I admit I didn't expect him to lead that drive to success. I'm going to be honest, just because of what I've seen so far this season. And that team fought bloody hard from him. And you only had to see the celebrations after. And anyone who says that is embarrassing, you're embarrassing. Oh, that's all I'm going to say. That was a team, that was a win that really justifies this coaching staff and what they are doing here. And he's not going to be offensive coordinator forever. But I'd argue all games he's been in, we've lost on the last play of the game, or we've been in it till the last play of the game. It's not like we've not been scoring points or been in games. You know, we've done well compared to a really experienced guy who was leading this offense before him. You know, they've been errors and that, but he's growing and he's learning. The big thing I saw in that Vikings game, he didn't punt at the end of that game. If we'd have punted and not gone for it on fourth down, we'd have lost. Because what would they have done? A slow, methodical drive down the field, smacked in a field goal. We've got no time to recover from that. Campbell goes, right, if we get that, we can run down the clock and win. If we don't, they're going to score quick on us, but we've got time to go back and beat them. And that was something that people were criticizing him for at the start of this season. His timekeeping ability, you know, his strategy. He got it spot on in that game, and he's learning and getting better every week. And in this year where we're rebuilding, I'd rather the mistakes come out now, so he learns from them. And when it matters, he knows what he's doing. Yeah. He is showing improvement at his job. And the buy-in was the critical thing this year. A team full of rookies, UDFAs, not the best guys in the world, or one-year guys looking to prove a point, are behind him 100%. And that's what we wanted to see. And we wanted to see player development, and that's what we've seen. Yeah. We've seen rookies, undrafted free agents who are going to be a big part of this team going forward. Charles Harris is a prime example, a guy who looked lost in the NFL, doomed to leave, you know, in disgrace because he's not done much in his career. Look at the renaissance he's had. He's bought in here. So many players have. And that is what you should be looking for this season, not the one win column. And anyone who said that result last week was embarrassing, the celebrations, this is a culmination of all the hard work he's put in. And of course they should bloody celebrate a win.
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to give small props to Riley Patterson for looking solid as our kicker as well. That gave me some hope. But just, I wanted to address a tweet I actually sent, and I know it's a bit self-indulgent because it was my fucking tweet. But I did not list the organisation, and I'm still not going to list the organisation because it goes for every one of these people. But there are media organisations out there, and you may give them your time. You may think this is fun, and then they may start feeding you drivel, such as what Ant has mentioned earlier about these people who, oh, you shouldn't celebrate like that. You're a losing team, and Detroit embraces losers. Losers will celebrate like this. I implore you that these people used to be journalists. They are masquerading as journalists. These people are taking your money and laughing in your face. They are stoking your anger for clicks. And I implore you to stop. Please stop giving these charlatans your time, because they are not worth it. They will make you angry. It will not make you happy. And at the end of the day, you gained nothing. And actually, there's a lot to be positive about this team.
I'd just add to that. People have made a career off being negative in the media about the Lions because most invariably they will prove you right. They will be bad. They'll not get better. We've seen over so many years, we've not improved, and it's always been the same old Lions. And this is what this crowd feed off. That's what they've made careers off. Why these guys are getting worried and going to such overreactionary lengths to pan these celebrations is because they're worried. They're worried because they see this team is going to be good. As a fan, I would say you've seen it this year. The culture's there, the buy-in is there, the attitude is there, the wins are starting to come. That was the next stage in the evolution of this team, was that first win. And that is not an over-exaggeration to say. It is. And the next evolution is going to come during free agency and the draft, where we get the right players in and we continue to develop. And they are worried like hell that this team is actually going to do well. Think of how many guys around the NFL, GMs, head coaches who are praising Dan Campbell for the job he's doing. They are football people who see what is happening. And we are people who can see what is happening. We choose not to see the negative. We look for the positives. That's what this season was about. Looking at the progression, and we are progressing the right way. And these people who are coming out in uber negative are only doing it because they're trying, they're worried that they're not going to be able to do it any longer. And there's people out there who just go, if I be negative right away, in 12 months, I'm going to be proved right. I'm going to look like Nostradamus. That's why I'm going to bash the Lions with no evidence whatsoever. Don't listen to them. There is many reasons to be positive this year. Look at the tape. Look at the reactions. As Luke G says, our good friend, do your research and you will see that this is a good season for us in terms of progression, not in the win margin. That doesn't matter this year. You're looking at so many other areas than the win margin.
Yeah. How about this as well? So not only are all of the players in there at the moment actually players who are ascending, who are doing better than they were doing, but second point, final point, they are all players who deserve our praise, that we can be proud of them as people. I do not think I can count more than one Lion that I dislike. They are all guys who have a very, very good, strong, warm personality. Learning yesterday on the Detroit Lions podcast about the new foundation that Jerry Jacobs is setting up is fantastic. These are people. Jerry Jacobs is a UDFA. He's not on a big contract. He cares about other people. This is a group of people that deserve all of the backing that we can provide to them because they are just good people. And I really like that. The one thing I want from this team is to know that I can root for this team because they're not a bunch of arseholes, unlike some teams around the league. I mean, the Raiders have made it a sort of franchise aim to take on all the arseholes and be that team. That's fine. But there's none of that at the Lions. This is a good group.
No. And this is why this is different. The buy-in and the belief is there more so than we've seen in a very long time. Yeah. And this team is playing better than the sum of its parts at the minute. People forget we're missing $100 million worth of talent through IR injuries, through dead cap, Dan Campbell's missing over half his budget, and yet he is been competitive against teams week in, week out. What do you think is going to happen when that money comes back and guys like Aaron Glenn and Hank Fraley are going to have all this talent to work with? It's going to be something special.
Yeah.
We've got some good room in the free agency this year. We've got some good room in the draft this year. We can hit the free agency market and make picks. There are reasons to be positive. There really is. You've just got to dig deep and look for them. It's easy to just be negative after one result and just go, oh, yeah, well, this is the same old. It really, really is not.
How about this as well? Coming back from injured reserve and playing for us next year, Jeff Okudah. We'll see what happens with that, but I think he could be a damn good safety no matter what happens. Romeo Okwara, let's hope his Achilles recovers because he was on for a career year this year. Frank Ragnow, Logan Stenberg, Quinta Cephas, AJ Park. Like, that bolsters our team massively just on their own. So reasons to be positive for the remainder of the year with the players we've got and finding more gems in the rough, and reasons to be positive for next year. I think we should...
We had a really good draft. We did well in free agency. We just sent out lots of one-year flyers, but we're landing on them. We're landing on some of them, and I think we've found more depth this year than we could have hoped to. I think our wide receiver depth is full. I think some of our defensive depth is full in some positions. We just need the elite guys to go in there with them, and we've got a really good team.
It's going to be something I have a look at in the off-season, but I think Brad Holmes so far has done an immaculate job. Given the resources, given the low hit rate of the people that he's meant to be taking on, he's done exceptionally well so far.
Exactly.
But I will expand on that.
Later
on. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Anything else you want to get off your chest before we sign off here?
No, my phone's about to die, so we've leveled this one at just the right amount, really. There, so no, it's been good to be back on again and to be able to chat, and I'm going to make sure I'm on a lot more going forward. So it was just so great to get a win the other day.
So great to get a win.
People didn't know I was at the pub where I am now. I wasn't working, but I was on the bar watching the game on my phone, and I ran out the pub screaming, and I felt like a pub full of people going, "The fuck's wrong with him?" I loved it so much. On Twitter, it was just mental. There were so many people who were just so delighted for us and all that. It was a wonderful week, and this is what makes all the pain worth it. I know it's just one win and that, but it was a really big milestone. This was, and that's not an over-exaggeration. It was a big milestone, this one. So, come on, let's keep going this season. There's still a lot on our plate. There's still players who can step up and get their spots for next year. There's still a lot to play for, and don't worry if we win more games. That's a good thing. If we start winning more games, then we're in front of where we want to be. We'll do well in the draft. Brad Holmes will pick well wherever he goes at. It's not the end of the world if we don't get Kayvon or Aiden. Still lots of good guys there. Let's just be grateful that this. I think the worst is over. I think the team is slowly going to start getting better and we're going to enjoy it. But on that, I'm going to have to dash because my phone is literally about to die. So, it's good to be on with you again.
Good to be on with you, sir. We'll see you again soon.
Yeah, and to everyone out in the chat and that, appreciate you joining us, and come and join us on Sunday. The tweet live stream will be going as always. So we do enjoy that. So, yeah, I'll see you all again soon.
Cheers, Ant. Right, next episode is on Monday, so that'll be the Lions at Broncos review show, so join in for that. Mentioned at the top of the show, but yesterday was the Roll the Lions College Football Podcast Championship Game Review and Mock Draft. So if you want to find out how the championship games went and what Ryan and Ant thought of those games, tune in for that. That's available on your podcast provider, or there's a replay of it on YouTube and Twitch as well. If you want to send us your mock drafts, we'll critique them for you in a kind of PFF grade style, if you like. So our email address is on our YouTube channel, DM's open on Twitter, or you can join our Discord and you can DM for us on Twitter or the link to that. Socials, Roar the Lions UK, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and a Facebook group for all worldwide fans, Detroit Lions fans, UK One Pride Worldwide, and RoarTheLionsUK.com on the web. Please subscribe, rate us 5 stars, like the videos, whatever you can. It'd be so appreciated. It means a great deal to us. just remains for me to thank you all for listening. To my co-host, Ant, who's just gone, my name's Matthew Turner. We will see you on Sunday for another Lions victory. Let's go, Lions. One pride.